Well, I'd like to welcome everyone today to our second webinar. The series is Leading Through Crisis, and we're talking about what it takes to get through this crisis together. We've had topics in the past around real estate and family law, and today we're going to focus on small business and the impact on small business, which has been tremendous. Given this crisis has affected all of us in different ways, I first want to share that our deepest sympathies go out to everyone that's being impacted by the coronavirus, from the economic aspect to the displacement, and in the very worst case where there may be death associated with this. So there's so many people that are affected in different ways, and our hearts go out to everyone at this time. And as we go through this, all in our quarantine state, this is provided a time to reflect, to revisit priorities, and for many of you on the line to assess what's going on in your business. Not only to first stabilize it, but look to pivot through this situation and identify opportunities to make sure that your team is prepared for what's next, your customers are prepared, and that you build a game plan for going forward. So today's webinar is to facilitate that, and this is a live web chat webinar where you can submit questions, and we'll can see those. We have a moderator that will pass on the questions to me, and we'll continue to have this discussion as we work together. And this is about community, this is about bringing best ideas to light, and it's about giving you value. So we're here to support you today, as always, and to open up the opportunity to ask some questions to industry leaders, of which I'm pleased to introduce with me today Justin Erickson, who's the CEO of Harbor Foods Group, as well as Scott Ward, who is the Vice President of Sales for the Hostess Convenience Division. And today we're really going to focus on the impact that the virus has had on the retail and restaurant and commercial distribution channels in the food industry. And I'd like to share just a quick introduction and then ask Justin and Scott to kick us off. Justin Erickson is an experienced leader in the food distribution industry and serves as CEO of Harbor Food Groups. He has over 30 years of experience with his company, family's company, and Harbor has grown from a small family business into one of the nation's largest diversified regional food distributors. And Justin worked his way up through the ranks at Harbor, took the reins as CEO in 2007. He's responsible for strategic planning, building the team to drive culture, and that's a big part of Harbor's success. He's a majority shareholder, board member, and great-grandson of the company's founder, Justin. He's joining us from Lacey, Washington, just outside of Seattle, member of Young Presidents Organization, YPO. He and I share that connection, and is involved in multiple food industry trade associations. And Justin, thanks for joining us. I'd like to also introduce Scott Ward. Scott is an experienced sales leader with over 30 years experience in the convenience channel. He started his career with Sather's Candy and worked at a variety of companies and joined Hostess in February of 2014. And I'll say on behalf of our listeners, I've consumed a few of your products during this quarantine, as I don't know whether probably more so as a coping mechanism, but nonetheless, thanks for the product distribution. And thanks for joining us today. Scott is joining us outside of Kansas City, Kansas, and he leads a division of 8 Hostess regional directors and a broker network of 70 business managers. Thanks both today. Justin, I'll ask you to kick it off. What have you experienced with your business through this time of crisis?
Yeah, great. Thanks for the opportunity to be here and speak with everyone on the call today, Nathan. You know, it's been a challenging and trying time for everybody out there in the world right now. And I think here in the United States, for some reason, everybody, well, a lot of people think that we have this figured out in the Seattle area because we were the first place that had cases of COVID-19. And in theory, we've had more time to learn how to deal with this. And, you know, to some extent, that's been true. we certainly don't have the perfect playbook on what to do in a time of crisis like this, but we have learned from our experiences along the way. We, as you touched on, Nathan, we have about 700 employees in our company, and have two different business units: Harbor Wholesale Supplies Retail Stores and Harbor Food Service Supplies Restaurants. And we saw in our business a definite two different things happening at the same time. While the retail store business was strong, with people trying to purchase groceries and canned foods and toilet paper and all of those staples at their neighborhood store, convenience store, at the same time restaurants were shut down, and sales dropped, in the neighborhood of 70% on that side of our business. So just two different challenges to navigate through at the same time. And I would say the one thing that we had in common is just the realignment of our priorities. And Nathan, you used the term pivot, but we had to just go back to our playbook and say, what's really most important here in our company? We have to stand by our values, use those as the foundation of our decision making. Number one, we have to keep our people safe and healthy. That became priority one in everything we do and every decision we make. Number two, we had to continue to serve our customers and keep them in business, and make sure their people were safe with our interactions. Third, obviously, shoring up our financial situation, preserving cash, and making sure our balance sheet remained strong through the crisis, also critical. And then, the final point here is just, how do we communicate now? How do we stay connected with our teams? We've moved everybody out of our offices. And how do we move to a virtual world like we're doing right now in this webinar, so that we can keep connected and keep good communication going through our organization? And those really became the priorities for us to navigate, to lead us through this crisis as a foundation.
Scott, what's been your experience? We were chatting even before we went live about some of the trends that you saw and had to deal with.
Yeah, well, being part of this industry for 30 years, we've really developed some great relationships with folks. And the thing you start to understand when you have conversations with distributors such as Justin and retail chains throughout the country is the folks are hurting right now. Businesses are struggling, and our thoughts are with all of these businesses as they recover. Our business is as healthy as our customers' business, so we're all in this together, and as we fight through the challenges. We're an essential business. That was good, and our customers are essential business, and we're really happy about that. That took a lot of pressure off of our employees. But I'd say our number one initiative is much like Justin references, the health and safety of our employees. So we still manufacture our production lines. We have 4 manufacturing sites in the U.S., over 2,000 employees. Our number one concern is absolutely the health and safety of those. And so we've implemented a variety of different procedures that promote social distancing, barriers in our production lines, a number of different things that we've implemented to make sure that we get through this together. I would say that our corporate leadership has been really exceptional. Our CEO and COO basically operate with this mentality of control the controllables. In other words, do your job, control everything that you control that's on your side of the equation, and we're probably going to have a good time getting through this crisis.
On the team side, our teams are so critical to everything from getting things done, doing the job, but yet ultimately engaging the customer. How have you kept your team engaged? How have you cultivated the culture? How have you tended to the culture during these challenging times and the quarantine state that we're all in?
I think, we had a couple different things going on in our, Scott touched on the point of us being in an essential business, and what a fortunate opportunity for us and our customers who were able to continue to operate during this time. As we worked with our teams here at our wholesale business, we talked a lot about the importance of being essential and the importance of those customers who rely on us. We distribute to neighborhood stores, to country stores, small rural communities around the northwest part of the country, where some of those neighborhood stores are really the only access close to home for people in those communities to buy groceries. And our team really stepped up to make sure the stores were in stock, had product available, and could retain in business. And we do an internal company survey every couple weeks, and we sent out a survey question last week. How do you feel? How do you feel your role at Harbor has purpose, or is it just a job? Or are you doing it just for the pay? And 88% of our team came back on that survey and said, my role here has a real purpose, and what I'm doing is important. We're serving these communities, and without us, there might not be food for some of these smaller towns and neighborhoods. So that's been a great kind of rally cry for our team. On the flip side, our restaurant distribution business, we just acquired about 6 months ago, so it's a new business to us, and it really became a time for us to walk the talk as far as our culture and how we treat people and how we react when times are tough. And we kept as many of our people employed as possible, continued to make sure that they were taken care of personally and their families, and also continued to perform for our customers when a lot of our competitors started scaling back services and offerings and weren't there to help.
Yeah, that's great perspective. Thank you, Justin. What about you, Scott? What have you seen evolve?
Well, internally, transparency, understanding of expectations was really key to define up front. And I recall back to the early days of this in early March. It was first week of March, the end of the first week of March. We knew things were going to change soon. We didn't know where it was going to go, but we knew that it just felt like our go-to-market strategy and our relations with our customers typically are face-to-face. And we knew that was going to change. So we started thinking about how we were going to treat the future without knowing what the future really was going to bring us. So we asked our team to think about that, to create their own idea of running their own business. That's really what we challenge our region managers and our directors to do, is treat the business as it's your own. Find a way to make it successful. Zoom calls, everybody's using Zoom today. So we internally connect via Zoom with our staff and with our customers. They've been, the primary objective is don't lose contact. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of communication to take place, and there's a lot that can go wrong if you fail to communicate. So that's number one, is everybody owns a piece of the puzzle. That was really important to establish that. We've also given members of our team key responsibilities that they may not have had in the past, to keep them engaged in the process, to make them part of the ownership of the future. Planning, 2021 planning, for example, we'll break it down and assign specific areas and allow our people to bloom and continue to develop. Our COO, Andy Jacobs, has done a fantastic job keeping our sales and marketing and internal supply chain team connected. We have bi-weekly Zoom conference calls we call happy hour. We hold them to the end of the day, or toward the end of the day, and those have been very effective. We try to give we spread the word around each week. So we'll select an individual or two from each geographic area of the country, and they'll tell a funny story about something that's happened to them or their family during the crisis, and then give a business update as well. And the interesting thing throughout these business updates is it's not the same. The impact of this crisis isn't the same across all regions of the country. There are some retailers based on geographically that are doing okay, and there's some that are really, really hurting. It's all a factor of customer traffic. And another thing that our CEO implements is what we call the Heart of Hostess Award. And historically, it's been a quarterly award that's given to basically an outstanding employee, an employee that demonstrates all of the key pillars of our expectations. And I think a pretty fabulous thing Andy Callahan has done with our company is award this on a more frequent basis to the individuals that really are making a difference on our production lines. They're keeping us moving, and we very much value that portion of that cross-functional relationship with our production teams.
You both focused on the critical aspect of communication, and when there's disruption, this is certainly an incredible stress on so many levels of the business, but ultimately it's our team's lives, it's our customers' lives, it's lives that are disrupted, and how we communicate and how we show empathy and how we show perspective that we're in this together, I think is critical. And one of the things that we've been doing on our team is simply having consistency. We've got a 9 a.m. call that the whole team is on. We've got a pretty clear routine to build familiarity. Not that we're not open to flexibility, but we want to have that sense of constancy in the middle of turbulence, and also have the opportunity to share solutions, share problems, bring things to light. And I encourage our team to figure out how to solve things that maybe weren't an issue a few months ago, but because of the circumstances we're in, this is a way to improve the business or to engage things, with customers in a way that is different, but yet most effective. And we do the virtual happy hours as well, and those are fun. And the last one we did, we had a theme of bring something that makes you laugh from your home, and it was a great way for people to hold up a plaque, a gift, a saying, and tell the story, because here we are in our homes, and we all need to have some perspective, and laughter is great medicine. I want to zoom out and focus a little bit on the industry that you're in and what you've seen with the customers that you've experienced. You've talked about it a little bit before, but for the people listening, Justin, could you paint maybe at the bigger picture level who you're serving and the scope or breadth of those customers, and then ultimately what they're looking for from you?
Sure. I think you kicked off the call, Nathan, by talking about small businesses, and our discussion today really doing what we can to help support small business, which aligns very well with what we're trying to do in our company right now. Nearly all of our customers are small businesses. So in some cases, they're small mom and pop store owners that may have anywhere from 1 to 40 convenience stores in their company. Some family businesses, some sole proprietor operators. We also service a number of independent restaurants. So, right now, restaurateurs are fantastic, creative people, oftentimes put their life savings into their business, and they don't do it for the money, they do it for their passion for food and because they love to be around people and they love to create an experience. And to see all of these small businesses, take such a hit because of COVID is, it's tough to bear, and we're hopeful for a strong recovery for those restaurant businesses in particular. And we also see people getting super creative on both of those customer segments, so we have small neighborhood stores, for example, that are taking phone-in orders from people that live in their neighborhood, and they're going out into the store and putting their orders together and bringing it out to their car in the parking lot, so they don't have to come into contact with employees. Providing that extra service, they're looking out for the elderly people in their community who are vulnerable and most at risk to this disease, and trying to help them get what they need without having to come in and physically shop. Restaurateurs, I hope all of you have taken the time to order takeout so you don't have to cook at home. Takeout operations have gotten much more robust and sophisticated in a lot of the restaurants that we serve. A ton of creativity out there right now. I've seen everything from pop-up trailers with drive-through windows to get people through quickly in a restaurant that's a famous downtown Seattle fine dining establishment. Typically, they have lines of cars coming in to have a hamburger from this place. The the use of technology. Restaurants that never looked at online ordering and delivery through a DoorDash or Grubhub type operation, all that's being figured out right now and being executed well. And I do believe that those new habits aren't going away quickly, and that new revenue stream will help supplement some of the challenges of reopening. When dining rooms are only half full and we've got new social distance requirements, some of those constraints on the physical site. I think operators with a good grasp of technology and delivery and takeout and some unique creative solutions there are going to come out strongest as we get through this. And I know you also spoke, Nathan, about talking about the future and where are we going and looking for opportunities. Absolutely. We're all doing that. Our conversations are there right now, talking about 2 months from now and 2 years from now, what does this look like and what can we do today to position ourselves for that, those changes in the market.
Scott, you mentioned before we went live, there's about 150,000 convenience stores in the country. And I found that number amazing. I didn't know that. And you also mentioned there was a significant bread shortage immediately. So what did you see early, and then what have you seen as some of the trends that are developing in your world?
Yeah, so there was absolutely an immediate demand disruption. I mean, we saw that the middle of March, it hit hard. And some of the larger pack types, the take-home type products that would be pantry loading, like bread and cereals and bagged donuts from respective of Hostess, the convenience stores became a real attraction for the take-home type products. So our bread sales, the first 2 or 3 weeks of the crisis, doubled, more than doubled in some instances. So that was interesting to see. Our bagged donut sales. So any large pack product we didn't feel the pain on the large pack products. It was more of the immediate consumption, smaller pack products where we've seen a fairly significant decline, but that's all relative to customer count that we see in the channel. As far as recovery, that's how we like to look at it. We look at POS every day, POS and outbound shipments, to understand our position this week versus last week. That's really how we're measuring ourselves right now in terms of the recovery. We're always looking at prior year and our operating plan, but are we recovering? Do we see improvements on all of our pack types? And the reassuring content really is the information that's coming to us from outbound ship data and ship data from our distributors to our retailers would indicate that the past 2 weeks, doesn't make a trend yet, but the past 2 weeks we're seeing some positive movement. And you can see that with the return to work that we're seeing in certain parts of the country. There's more traffic on the roads, fuel prices are at all-time low, more people. It's a simple math equation with 150,000 stores. You have more cars on the road, there's more visits to convenience stores, and we're going to sell more products. So we're seeing that. We're feeling the recovery. We're very hopeful that it continues over the next weeks and months.
And are you able to see at a maybe percentage basis where you are relative to 12 months ago? Are we at the early stage of recovery? Are we in the middle? From your view on your dashboard of whatever the metrics are that you find meaningful?
Yeah, we're at the early stages for sure, no doubt. But an indicator again is our outbound sales, and if we look at our outbound sales and some of our specific pack types, we are very close to where we were at the end of, or at the beginning of the crisis. So again, it's a factor of customer count, but we're feeling optimistic.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Justin, on the restaurant side, I know you said that's a newer part of your business, but what do you see 6 months down the road, or some of the trends specific to the restaurant world? And I know you mentioned a few things around the social distancing, the reopening, but do you see what do you see that it impacts how your business is being run?
Yeah, so I do see substantial changes to our restaurant business, and a lot of them positive, to be honest. So I may have mentioned we acquired another company distributing in the restaurant space 6 months ago, and that's really what catapulted us into the restaurant distribution segment. We supply about 1,600 restaurants here in Washington State and in Oregon as well. And as you can imagine, when acquiring another company and bringing on a new team, there's a transformation that has to happen with culture to get the team acquainted with who, Harbor and our values and who we are and what's this business going to be all about going forward. And, I've used the term a lot, which is never waste a crisis. We've really used this crisis to say, okay, this business is operated a certain way, like the company it once was for most of the time we've had it now. This is our chance to hit the reset button and just rethink and redo how we do things here, honoring and keeping the experience and knowledge that's there with the team and learning from that, but making the changes that are going to really set us up for success in the future. So, as that pertains to our customers, the actual in-restaurant operators, I've heard from a lot who said, they're looking forward to reopening. One, we weren't sure how many would even reopen going into this, and we're still not precisely sure. But in surveying customers, we're finding that 90+% plan to reopen and get their businesses back and going again. A lot of owners are talking about rolling up their sleeves and getting back into the day-to-day details. From our standpoint, I think customers are looking differently at their suppliers and saying, you know what, I need a strong partner in this. It's not all about price and shopping every week. I just need a good partner that's going to be there for me, because bad stuff happens. And doing business with companies with integrity, with the right values that can take care of my needs, that's super important. So some of those customers are eliminating other suppliers from their mix and talking about going more, making a deeper commitment to us as their primary vendor. And we've used this opportunity to create a unique position in our marketplace by partnering with several other local providers as opposed to battling with them on the streets. So for example, the largest produce supplier in our region, we've teamed up with them to source produce together to bring in local vegetables, fruit, to share in freight expense and whatnot for product coming up from California, to bring the best of the best all on one truck to our customers. So, we have this collection of local suppliers and products that we can bring, with one convenient delivery, which is super efficient. And the restaurants, as they reopen, that efficiency and that convenience is going to be important to them. But, we think menus will be streamlined. There won't be as much variety. The supply chain's been heavily disrupted. Scott can speak to this as a manufacturer, but you go from 70% of your demand going away overnight. You've probably all read about farmers in California tilling their produce crops back into the field because they have no place to sell it. It's more expensive to box up lettuce and ship it somewhere and give it to a food bank than it is just to turn the crops back into the ground. There's going to be a huge disruption to our supply chain when restaurants come back online. We're going to have, we're expecting severe vendor shortages. People are going to have to be flexible, in substituting items on their menu if they can't get what they need to create, their signature Brussels sprout dish. They're going to have to pivot and buy something else and change the menu up. I think it's going to be dynamic like that, and we're all going to have to sort of learn as we go. But I do I'm impressed with the resilience and continued optimism and creativity of those restaurant owners we supply. That's definitely inspirational to me and our entire team here at Harbor.
I encourage everyone on the call listening in to submit questions. We have questions that are coming in, and we're going to spend the next few minutes asking Justin some questions. Scott, I'll ask you for your input from a trend standpoint as you look ahead. What do you see evolving in your business line?
Yeah, well, with 30+ million unemployed right now, it's going to continue to be a challenge for sure. As we're going to see moderate trend improvements for sure as people return to work. It's all a factor of more cars on the road and the convenience channel. I would say one other thing, Justin references restaurants. You know, when you think of a convenience stores sometimes by some people get overlooked. The term is QSR, quick serve restaurant. The roller grill section of a store, the coffee section of a store, the soda fountain area, those are all heavily disrupted. Sometimes not even in use today. The pastry case with unwrapped pastry, it's non-existent in many areas of the country. Those were key traffic drivers for some restaurants, which means that they were coming for fuel and coming for restaurant food. They were buying our products as a dessert. And the return of the QSR to a convenience store, from our perspective, is very, very important as well. As that happens, the whole health of the internal cells will continue to improve. But again, it's a factor of the unemployment. It's a factor of return to jobs as normal and more folks on the road. Very beneficial for my business. Now, we have other channels in the company that haven't been impacted like convenience, or grocery and large format stores, big box stores. Everybody understands that traffic has been fairly strong in those classes of trade. So we've got some catch up to do for sure in convenience.
I'll go to a few questions. Justin, for you, you touched on a couple aspects of this question around the competitive landscape. So what do you see happening to the competitive landscape this year when someone like US Foods is heavily restaurant focused and had to furlough the majority of their employees?
You know, again, as I touched on in the very beginning, we look at everything through the lens of how does this fit with our values and how does our decision making impact our culture. And I think because of that, we're going to be in great position while US Foods and others are furloughing employees and making substantial cuts, or centralizing operations, creating a lot of their own disruption in the process. And I'll go to what Scott said too. This is a relationship business. Like this, you know, people do business with people they trust and they like to do business with, and food is somewhat of a commodity. They can get food from us or from, you know, a number of other suppliers. By keeping that team intact and keeping those relationships intact, we're, I believe, going to be much more successful in retaining and growing the business, you know, as we come out of this. And, you know, you have those big changes happening with the large publicly traded corporations, but at the same time, I think there's going to be some smaller distributors that were, you know, struggling to get get by in the first place, that now may want to exit. You know, we've been in communication with other companies and we're always open to looking at potential acquisition opportunities. And you know, through a downturn like this, there will be opportunity for us to continue to grow. So we're, you know, we think we're well positioned from that standpoint. And I would say that's consistent across our supply to convenience stores and to restaurants as well. It's just, we take care of our people, they take care of our customers. Those relationships are what make our business. That's why we're strong at the end of the day.
Another question is around, I guess, open for both of you. How do you handle employees that are struggling to stay engaged? Being at home, could have young children. Now you've got childcare responsibilities. Now you've got schooling responsibilities. Now you've got competing. You know, it's hard to figure out who's going to walk the dog next sometimes, and that actually becomes a major challenge with engagement. Any tips, insight on how to address and help that?
Yeah, I'll address a little bit now. On my side of the equation, my team universally has worked from their home their whole careers. Okay, it's not like they work from their homes. Their business place of doing business is our customer office, right? So they travel. But so being home is not an unusual circumstance for my team. And so what probably is unusual, everything's changed in the house. So I will say this, from flexibility perspective, we're all there. You know, it goes back to the safety and health of our our employees. Health is in many different ways, mental and physical. So, we're absolutely all about family for sure, and it's all about trust as well. So, you take care of your family, you take care of your business, and I think that we do a pretty exceptional job of making sure that our employees can do both.
Yeah, so I'd just break it into two groups. So we have, we have sort of our frontline workforce, like our delivery drivers and warehouse personnel that are still having to physically come to the operation and do their job, much like they have always done their job. And, that group is, I would say, easier to keep engaged and stay connected to. And I think by and large, they feel fortunate to have an opportunity to be working and earning a paycheck right now and be a part of something. For the remote workforce that like Scott spoke to, it's definitely more challenging. In some cases, people have gone to reduced hours, not just because of our requirement that they reduce hours, but to your point, Nathan, childcare is now an issue, and there's other family considerations that need to be tended to. We've done our sub teams around the company have done a lot of the things you're talking about, daily huddles, happy hours. In some cases, I've had better communication with our entire team through this than I did before. We've had town hall meetings with 250 people on a Microsoft Teams call and had the chance just to talk openly to our entire company, or to large groups in our company all at the same time. And, we've thought, why didn't we do this before? We've had the technology, we could have done this, but it wasn't happening. So, I think those huddles and happy hours and that connection is definitely helping. And we've just accepted that we're going to have to be more flexible as an organization going forward as far as working from home goes, childcare, flexible work schedules. We've learned to pivot our business to work in that environment, and I think we'll be better for it as we get through this.
I'd like to highlight something that we talk about with our small business owner clients, which is the PPP loan provision, and that's the Paycheck Protection Program, part of the CARES Act that was passed. And recently, that PPP program was refunded, meaning additional funds were added to the program. The first program, the funds were pretty much exhausted in a 2-week period. And there were a number of small businesses, truly the ones that needed it, that you're talking about at the convenience store level, the restaurant level. Most small businesses are less than 10 employees, and they're feeling the full brunt and effect of what's going on. So this loan provision is a great opportunity, and we encourage all of our contacts, our clients, to pursue that. And we've had a number of conversations with our clients around it. But it's important to know just a few points on how to maximize the forgiveness of this loan, because when these proceeds are used for payroll costs, interest on any mortgage obligation, rent under any leasing agreement made prior to February 15th, 2020, utilities, those are all eligible for forgiveness after the 8-week period of receiving the loan benefit. And so I encourage you to check with your professionals, your attorney, your CPA, your financial professionals. Make sure your team is working together to help maximize this for your company. And when the time comes for forgiveness, it's really important to have documentation, the proof of canceled checks or electronic payment that's been made, the payroll tax filings, the bills. All the things need to be organized, because 60 days after that 8-week period, you can apply for loan forgiveness. And that is going to be a major benefit to small businesses. So there's been a number of talking points about the PPP program, and some public businesses that have subsidiaries applied for it and got it. Number of businesses are returning PPP funds. It's there to help, so make sure that you make good use of those funds and help stabilize your business, because so many businesses are affected in many different ways. And once again, I encourage you to connect with your team. We also, Planning Alternatives, are offering a free consultation. If you have any questions about things going on in your business and your life, this is our way of giving back, no strings attached. We'll set up to an hour of a free consultation to listen to what you're going through and to the best of our ability, give our perspective. We encourage you once again to work with all of your team of professionals to get the resources that are available to you. So you're welcome to take advantage of that after the webinar today. So finally, I will ask each of you for feedback. And first, I want to thank you for the time that you took out of your schedules today. You're both busy, you've got teams that you're leading, you're making an impact in so many ways. So debt of gratitude to both of you. And on behalf of our listeners, I want to say thank you. But I'd ask what your takeaways are. What's your final message for our audience today? Justin, you mind sharing?
Well, that's a tough one. Final message today. I would just kind of end on thinking in terms of small business. It's been refreshing through all of this to see the generosity and the resilience of the small businesses that we serve. To look at, a number of our customers who have suffered huge financial losses going through this, but continue to give, to purchase food from us, to donate to their employees, to support their communities, to look at what they can do, how they can help. I see restaurants making food in their kitchens and supporting frontline workers at hospitals. Free donation-based type stuff. So one of the takeaways I've had, and our business is no exception, is, it seems counterintuitive to give right now, when we've all suffered a financial loss and hardship, but now is the time when people need it. People need food, people need jobs, they need support and help. And so, we're looking at that and approaching it with that attitude and looking at our future, with a long-term perspective. This isn't going to be forever. And now is when we need to step up and do the right thing and be there for our people and for our customers.
Scott, 60 seconds or less.
Sure. I would say it's all about readiness. Make sure you're listening to your customers. They'll tell you what they want, for sure. Be ready to and able to react quickly to change, for the most part. And where we're buttoning ourselves up right now is what's probably impacted our ability to sell product over the last 60 days is merchandising. So we're ensuring and asking that our partners are refreshing their planograms to be ready for the recovery and be ready for the customers as they in mass grows return to the channel. So
once again, thank you for your time, and thanks for everyone on the call. I'm going to end with a quote that I received from Melissa Schiller, who has brought us, three of us together, and she sent it to the three of us, and I'd like to share with, she sent it to the three of us this morning, but it is simply, leadership is not about a title or a designation, it's about impact, influence, and inspiration. And every one of us on this call and in our communities are leaders. Some of us have it as a title on a business card, but as leaders, we take these responsibilities into our day, our work, our family, our community, and we're here to make impact. So I want to thank both of you for taking the time once again, making an impact in this conversation, and wish you all the best and good luck as we move forward in the days ahead.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you, Nathan.